Okay. I'm going to begin picking through pieces, but you're getting the drift.
It's all bullshit? Is that what the word you're looking for?
Yes. Yeah.
King George himself eventually got, because his apparently his stool wasn't quite right when they examined it, ended up on a lunacy asylum.
Oh, right. He was...
They got rid of him after he'd done it all.
Yeah, right.
That's the whole idea of it. He wasn't a lunatic. They just got rid of him.
No, well, he was... Well, he was owned by Bauer.
Yeah.
Next paragraph. If I grab the water again. Okay. There are no remaining public federal employees in America. All employees who you believe to be a part of America's government are actually agents of a foreign government, and this definition includes the president. The federal elections are a joke on us. All of the candidates have been jointly pre-selected and pre-screened by the national boards of the Republican and Democratic parties well before the election process. All of our federally elected officials, appointed administrators, federal police and judges receive their paychecks through the Office of Personnel Management. OPM is a division of the International Monetary Fund, which is owned by the Rockefeller and Rothschild families and their banking empires, which operates in tandem with the United Nations. The IRS and Interpol are owned by the International Monetary Fund, which has been identified as an earlier version of the US Army Manual as a communist organization. Those Americans who do not know how to assert their beneficiary status are treated by the government and their courts as a corporate fiction. The corporate governments and their courts only have jurisdiction over corporations. Corporations have no rights or jurisdictions over living people and are only provided considerations which have been pre-negotiated in contracts by their directors. Otherwise, they're governed totally by commercial law, and so are you.
This gets back to the straw man,
Yes,
where all their
this is
money
all
is invested in your
corporate
name
fictions.
onto
Fictions.
these commercial law or commercial accounts in the stock market. And they want you dead as soon as possible. But make a bit of money on the side so you slowly get ill with cancer, and then they make money off that. I think it's worth $1 million or so for every cancer victim in America. That's what its profit is to the pharmaceutical organisations. And then finally you die and the money goes back to the secret account. It's terminated as you are dead intestate from birth, virtually. How do we overcome all this? Well, you boycott Chevron and anyone who makes soya. If it's on the shelf and it's got soya in it, don't buy it. If a teamster is going to truck soya products, don't truck it. If a longshoreman is going to unload Monsanto soya or any seed which is genetically modified by the Rockefeller corporations, don't unload it. Don't ship it. Don't move it. This is where America's power is, in the people, forming unions. Everyone should be in a union, employed fairly. Once you're out of a job, first in is last on the job. So first fired or unemployed goes back to the union hall, his name goes on the books, and then the one who's been on the books longest is the next one employed. And you have an unemployment insurance which you all contribute to. So if you're out of work, you still get paid. Tell them all to get stuffed.
This paragraph's interesting. I've just skipped through a bunch because it's, you know, we all know about the corporate fiction. And this is an interesting statement, though. Without any real constitutional basis, the US Department of Education was created. The Constitution made it the responsibility of each state to educate their people, and several states challenged the Congress in the courts. The matter was eventually heard by the US Supreme Court, which has never been a constitutional Article 3 court from its inception, which I will explain. The Supreme Court ruled that the federal government was entitled to oversee the educational requirements of United States citizens by virtue of their constitutional powers to regulate commerce. Bad law is bad law, no matter how you turn. No matter how you turn the paper, and that ruling gave the federal government the green light to initiate its brainwashing process of the American public. Let me explain how the court arrived at its ruling, because these are not ignorant men. On every form you file to receive government benefits, and even the voter registration form, there is a question that asks, are you a United States citizen, yes or no? And everyone circles the yes answer. Didn't you? Now look up the definition of a United States citizen in a reputable law dictionary. You will discover that a United States citizen is a phrase designed to identify a corporate fiction. Clever, isn't it? You and every other American had no idea that you were admitting that you were a corporate fiction when you circled yes answer, and that you did it under the penalty of perjury. Okay. The sovereign states had been abolished in 1790 by the adoption of Article 1 of the State Statutes at Large, which converted all the sovereign states into federal districts and gave the federal government lawful jurisdiction everywhere. In consideration of the fact that the federal government is a corporation and that corporations can lawfully own other corporations, and all the American subjects to be educated have admitted, under penalty of perjury, that they are corporations, the Supreme Court ruled in favour of the corporate federal government. Okay. Oh, now this is interesting. Under corporate governments, no sovereign can lawfully be tried. So the living person, that's us, can lawfully be tried or convicted of any statutory crime. And he says he recently discovered how to avoid prosecution under the trust when a sovereign is taken before a corporate prosecuting attorney or a judge. He says, first, the sovereign must inquire if we are on the record, and if not, insist upon it. Say nothing, sign nothing, and answer no questions until you are convinced that the proceedings are being recorded. Secondly, all a sovereign has to say for the record is, I am a beneficiary of the trust, and I am appointing you as my trustee. Thirdly, the sovereign then directs the trustee to do his bidding. As my trustee, I want you to discharge this matter I am accused of and eliminate the record. Fourthly, if the sovereign suffered any damages as a result of his arrest, he can direct that the trust compensate him from the proceeds of the court by saying, I wish to be compensated for X amount of dollars in redemption. This statement is sufficient to remove the authority and jurisdiction from any prosecuting attorney or judge. The accused will be immediately released from custody with a check, license or claim he identifies as a damage. It doesn't matter what the action involves or how it is classified by the corporate law as a civil or criminal action. It works every time. All of the codes, statutes and regulations throughout the United States are a will from the masters to their slaves. A will is defined as an express command used in a dispositive nature. When individuals in America are charged with a crime and warehoused in a jail, it is because they went against the will of the masters and not because they harmed another person. Remember that the will demands from us all that we are, keeps us in check and promises us nothing. The police officer who arrested you has been brainwashed into believing that he is doing the right thing, when in fact he is nothing more than an armed slave acting as a henchman and required to bully and intimidate all other slaves into